The sun was setting over a bustling neighborhood in Lisbon, Portugal, casting a warm glow on the small café that had been a community staple for decades. Inside, the aroma of freshly baked bread and grilled seafood filled the air as diners enjoyed their meals. The hum of conversation and the clinking of cutlery created a cozy atmosphere. Sitting in a dimly lit corner of the café was a man who didn't quite blend in, though he was trying his best to. His clothes were worn and dusty, his hair unkempt, and his face hidden beneath a scruffy beard and a faded cap. The man was none other than Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the world's most recognizable figures, but tonight, no one recognized him. Ronaldo had decided to go undercover as part of a personal mission. He wanted to experience life from a different perspective, to understand the challenges faced by those less fortunate, and to observe how people would treat someone they thought had nothing to offer. He had chosen this particular café for its reputation as a place where locals gathered, a mix of families, workers, and tourists. As he sat quietly, Ronaldo noticed the sideways glances from other diners, some of whom whispered to each other, clearly uncomfortable with his presence. A waiter passed by without acknowledging him, focusing instead on more affluent-looking patrons. But Ronaldo wasn't deterred. He leaned back in his chair, observing, waiting, and wondering who in the room would show kindness to someone who appeared to have nothing. As the minutes ticked by, Ronaldo continued to sit quietly, blending into the background as much as possible. His stomach rumbled slightly, a sound that didn't go unnoticed by the waitress serving the table nearby. Her name tag read Isabella, and her kind eyes stood out even amidst the hectic pace of the café. Isabella, in her late 20s, had worked at the café for years. She was known for her warm demeanor and her ability to make everyone feel welcome, no matter who they were. As she cleared a nearby table, her gaze lingered on Ronaldo. His worn clothes and tired posture didn't sit right with her. She hesitated for a moment before approaching him, her tray tucked under one arm. Boa noite, she said softly, her voice carrying the gentle lilt of Portuguese. Can I get you something to eat or drink? Ronaldo looked up, his expression guarded but grateful. I don't have much money, he said, his voice deliberately low and hesitant. Isabella smiled, brushing his concern aside. That's okay, she said. We have some soup and bread I can bring out for you. No charge. Ronaldo nodded, his gratitude evident in his eyes. Thank you, he murmured. As Isabella walked back toward the kitchen, Ronaldo leaned back in his chair, touched by her kindness. She didn't know who he was, didn't recognize the global superstar beneath the disguise, and yet she had offered help without hesitation. When Isabella returned with the soup and bread, she placed it in front of him with a smile. Here you go, she said. It's not much, but it's warm. Ronaldo looked up at her, his voice genuine. It's more than enough. Thank you. As Isabella moved on to attend to other customers, Ronaldo took his time eating, observing the interactions around him. Most people ignored him or avoided eye contact, but Isabella's simple act of kindness stood out. He decided that she was exactly the kind of person he wanted to help. What she didn't realize was that her small gesture of generosity was about to change her life forever. As the evening wore on, Ronaldo continued to observe Isabella. She moved swiftly between tables, refilling drinks, taking orders, and chatting with customers. Despite the long hours and clear exhaustion on her face, her kindness never wavered. She offered warm smiles, checked in with diners, and treated everyone with the same level of care, even those who barely acknowledged her efforts. At one point, Ronaldo noticed her pausing near the counter, rubbing her temples as though battling a headache. A colleague whispered something to her, and Isabella nodded before returning to the floor, her smile firmly back in place. It was clear that she was juggling more than just plates and orders, there was a quiet strength in her that Ronaldo couldn't ignore. When she passed by his table again, Ronaldo stopped her. Isabella, he said, glancing at her name tag, thank you for the meal. You've been so kind. She smiled, brushing off his gratitude. It's nothing, she said. Everyone deserves a little kindness. But not everyone gives it, Ronaldo replied, his words soft but meaningful. Isabella tilted her head slightly, her expression curious. Life's hard enough, she said after a pause. Sometimes, it's the small things that make a big difference. Ronaldo nodded, her words resonating deeply. And do you always take care of people like this? Even when they don't ask? Isabella chuckled, her smile growing. It's just how I was raised, she said. My mom used to say, when you give, you get something back, maybe not right away, but it always comes around. Ronaldo leaned back in his chair, his admiration for her growing. Isabella reminded him of the people who had supported him during his early years, when he was just a boy in Madeira with big dreams and few resources. Her unassuming kindness struck a chord, and he knew then that he had to repay her in a way she could never imagine. Slipping his phone from his pocket, Ronaldo discreetly sent a text to his team, who were waiting nearby. The plan was in motion. As the cafe began to quiet down for the evening, Ronaldo's team arrived unnoticed, blending seamlessly into the surroundings. They carried several boxes and a small envelope, waiting for his signal. Ronaldo stayed in his seat, watching Isabella as she cleared tables and continued to serve the last few customers. It was time to act. When Isabella returned to his table to collect his empty bowl, Ronaldo looked up and said, Isabella, do you mind sitting for a moment? I'd really like to talk to you. Isabella hesitated, glancing around to ensure her coworkers weren't overwhelmed. Seeing everything under control, she nodded and slid into the chair across from him. What's on your mind? She asked, her tone curious but kind. Ronaldo leaned forward slightly, his voice steady but soft. I need to tell you something, he began. I'm not who you think I am. Isabella furrowed her brow, confused. Ronaldo slowly removed his cap and ran a hand through his hair, revealing his unmistakable face. Isabella's eyes widened as recognition dawned on her. Wait, you're Cristiano Ronaldo, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Ronaldo smiled. Yes, it's me. I came here tonight undercover to see how people would treat someone in need. And, Isabella, your kindness stood out. You treated me with dignity and respect when you didn't have to, and that says so much about the person you are. Isabella's mouth opened, but no words came out. She was too stunned to speak. Ronaldo gestured toward the door, and his team entered, carrying the boxes and envelope. The cafe staff and remaining customers turned to watch, their curiosity piqued. Isabella, Ronaldo continued, because of your kindness, I want to give something back to you. These boxes contain brand new appliances and supplies for the cafe, so you and your coworkers have everything you need to make your work a little easier. The cafe erupted into murmurs of surprise and applause. Isabella's eyes filled with tears, but Ronaldo wasn't done. He slid the envelope across the table toward her. And this, he said, is for you personally. Inside is enough to cover your bills, help your family, and give you a little breathing room. You deserve it. Isabella hesitated before opening the envelope, her hands trembling. Inside was a check for 20,000 euros. She gasped, her tears spilling over as she covered her mouth with her hand. I don't know what to say, she whispered, her voice breaking. Thank you so much. Ronaldo smiled warmly, placing a hand over hers. You don't need to say anything. You've already done enough. This is just my way of saying thank you for being such a good person. The cafe erupted into cheers and applause, customers standing to clap and celebrate Isabella's moment. Her co-workers gathered around her, offering hugs and words of encouragement. Isabella wiped her tears, her smile radiant. You've changed my life, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Ronaldo shook his head gently. No, Isabella. You changed mine tonight. You reminded me of the power of kindness and the impact it can have. Thank you. As the applause filled the cafe, Isabella sat in stunned silence, her hands still clutching the envelope. The moment was surreal, and the realization that Cristiano Ronaldo, a global superstar, had chosen to highlight her kindness left her overwhelmed with gratitude. Ronaldo stood, addressing the room with the same confidence he carried on the football field. "Tonight isn't about me," he said, his voice firm but warm. "It's about people like Isabella, who remind us that even the smallest acts of kindness can make the biggest difference. We live in a world that moves fast, but it's moments like these that slow us down and remind us what really matters." The crowd erupted into cheers once again, their admiration for Ronaldo and Isabella palpable. Several customers came forward to shake her hand, some even offering hugs. Her co-workers, many of whom had been inspired by her generosity for years, shared stories of how Isabella had helped them during tough times. "She's always been the heart of this place," one of her co-workers said, her voice trembling with emotion. "She's the kind of person who gives without expecting anything in return." Ronaldo smiled, listening quietly to the heartfelt tributes. When the cheers finally began to die down, he turned back to Isabella. "I hope this makes things a little easier for you," he said. "And I hope it inspires others to follow your example." Isabella stood, her tears now replaced with a radiant smile. "You've done more than that," she said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming emotions. "You've shown me that kindness does come full circle. I'll never forget this, and I'll keep doing my best to pay it forward." Ronaldo nodded, reaching out to shake her hand one last time. "That's all I could ever ask for," he said. "Keep being you." As Ronaldo and his team prepared to leave, the cafe buzzed with excitement and joy. News of the event quickly spread as customers shared photos and videos online, the story of Ronaldo's undercover act of kindness going viral within hours. Messages of support poured in for Isabella, with many inspired by her selflessness. That night, as Ronaldo stepped into the cool Lisbon air, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. For him, this wasn't just about giving, it was about reminding people of the humanity we all share, regardless of our circumstances. Inside the cafe, Isabella sat with her co-workers, still processing the incredible turn of events. The financial support was life-changing, but what meant even more to her was the recognition of her kindness, the validation that her small acts of generosity had not gone unnoticed. As the lights dimmed in the cafe and the city settled into the quiet of the night, one thing was clear: Ronaldo's gesture had created a ripple effect of hope and kindness that would extend far beyond the walls of the little cafe. It was a reminder that even in the busiest corners of life, there's always room for compassion, and that a single act of kindness can truly change the world.